that's a loaded question. When I got dropped off, I had shoes on. And I realized I'm the only one with shoes. So I felt the odd one out. So I always used to take my shoes off. I'm a Marine too. So I like to tell people I'm a Marine because once you're a Marine, always a Marine. And it was a matter of life and death because they made you feel like if you go back to your old ways, then you are letting down God, right? If you don't have an English name, that means you are maintaining your bush ways or your backward ways. If you grow your dreads, you are going back to being a bushman. Something as natural. It's not like we went and got. We never got tattoos. You can't be independent. If you wanna do something that's instinctive, you have to suppress it. Man, I didn't know I was gonna be asked about what I ate. I had made some pancakes yesterday, so that's what I had, if we can call it breakfast. That was breakfast, lunch, whatever we're gonna call it. So I've only had that pancake, but it can easily be called a crepe. You know the pancake, the Kenyan pancake is different than pancake here. Is that a little small, thin? Yeah, that's the one I made, yeah. Now, a lot of times I find that I don't have breakfast because I don't usually like to, I'm not a cook really. So if I have to prepare something, I feel like that better be a meal, like lunch or dinner or something like that. But breakfast, I don't want to do something like cereal or something like that because I'm trying to avoid that. So, and I've grown around this notion that breakfast is the most important meal. But I've realized a meal is a meal, man. Whenever you break it is when you break it. So I find myself not having breakfast. So to answer your question, even when we go on hikes, I've not had nothing. I feel better that way. Like that's a loaded question. You're talking about like what my goal is like for the day, like what motivates. Well, it's a responsibility, man. I have a job which I take very seriously. I work for the VA in HR, human resources. So I want to make sure that when I wake up, when I feel like if I don't wake up, if I don't go to work, I'm letting some people down. And then secondly, I have responsibilities, man. I have employees for my company. And I feel if I don't wake up and do what I need to do, those people I'm not gonna be there to support them. So the company is gonna collapse or whatever I have going on or whatever interest I have, like I have the foundation. I wanna make sure I'm there to support it. So all these things are there. I feel like those are the things that make me wanna work hard. So when I wake up every morning, I'm hoping I'll contribute towards that. And then to top it all, I'm a father, man. If I don't wake up and do things, well, how am I going to be telling them, this is what you got to do, you know? I feel like this is the best way to motivate them, you know? So, yeah. My name is Ben. People call me Ben around San Diego, and it has spread everywhere. Even my littlest 4 years old, when you ask him, what's your dad's name? He says his name is Ben. I honestly don't know where it came from, but people just started calling me Ben. But my full name is Benson Kathiga Nthambiri. So I like to call myself Kathiga Nthambiri. And I'm a Marine too. So I like to tell people I'm a Marine because once you're a Marine, always a Marine. And a lot of people call me Nthambiri while I was active duty. They can't pronounce Nthambiri, so they just call me Nthambiri because my name starts with an N, Nthambiri. So that's who I am. And here I am in San Diego. Now I live in San Diego. And that's about it. The earliest memory I can remember. I remember being taken to school by my dad. I grew up in a place called Kaugo or Kegumo. It's a small village or small, I don't know what you can call it, area in Runyenjes. It's in Embu County and it's part of Runyenjes. And it's part of Kenyan. My dad was a chief. So I remember being dropped off so I can go to school. And then when I was being dropped off, I thought I was going to a party, you know? So I got dropped off and my dad had a car. That's a good thing. So my dad, you couldn't ignore his presence because back in the day, he was the only one who had a car like in the entire place. So he came in and the car was parked right in front of the classroom. And then he brought me in the class. I don't remember him sitting down or whatever. He gave me to the teacher who is kind of like my auntie, you know. And then I was dropped in class. And then I think after a while, I don't know how I got distracted. The car was gone. I was like, what the hell is going on, man? I felt abandoned and stuff. But anyway, I had a good time. Yeah. That's my earliest memory. I've never thought of that. I don't remember anything else beyond that. I mean, before that. That's the one I remember vividly. It's almost like if I close my eyes and I was able to recreate, that's the thing that I can remember everything the way it was, exactly the buildings, where it was. Primary school, man. Yeah. Nursery school. I lived there, and my dad was a chief. It's what they call the senior chief. I don't think they exist anymore. Senior chiefs used to be, they used to be in charge of an area which is now called the county. Basically, not the county, district. Because they used to call it a location, and it was so big. Like, if you look at the map, it came from all the way Kanyuambora, all the way close to Mount Kenya. It's a very big, it had to, after my dad left, it was split 3 times. So it can be a location. It was called Kieni. So it has to be called Kieni North, Kieni South, and I believe Kieni Metro or Central or something like that. But my dad was a chief. From the independence days, he was made a chief. And he was a chief until he retired. He retired when I already come to the US. So, because I got to the US in 97. So that's where I grew up. Speaking of primary school, I went over there. When I got dropped off, I had shoes on. And I realized I'm the only one with shoes. So I felt the odd one out. So I always used to take my shoes off. And sometimes I would go home. They're like, where's your shoes? I don't remember. I don't know if somebody took them or I literally just forgot them. So the teacher had to be given the extra duty of watching my shoes. Yes, so that's where I grew up. In the lineup, when I was born, there was a total of, when I was born, I was the 7th. And then obviously, as I can remember, there was the last born, who is the 8th. But what happened is my parents had 6 kids that were living. I've heard that there's some who died at birth or something to that effect. You know, they don't talk about things like that. But there's number 6 is a girl, my sister. We call her small sis because she's the youngest and she's smaller than me. You know, size-wise, height, whatever. But almost 10 years later, I came. I don't know what happened. I don't know if my dad came and it was a good day or whatever they were celebrating. But anyway, whatever. But I know I came. And then the story is they were like, man, he's going to be lonely. We better make another one so we can keep him company. And they were hoping for a girl. I've heard that a few times. But then a boy came. So I have a smaller brother. So I have 3 sisters and I had 4 brothers, but 1 passed. So now there's 3 brothers, 3 sisters. And like I say, there's a gap and then there's a smaller one. So we consider ourselves the children and they consider us the children. My older siblings are old enough, as you can see, there was a 10-year gap between the 6. And there was like a 1 year, 2 year, whatever. And the oldest has since passed. He passed in 2015. So that's the dynamic. So we're pretty much the babies. People consider us spoiled. I don't know how. But it's just like we came when everybody was already established. The youngest sister I'm talking about, I'm small sis. She was already pretty much going to college. I take that back. She was in high school. But by the time, I was growing up to know what the hell is going on, she was already out of high school. So my older siblings are old enough to be my siblings. My parents, I should say. Well, you can say maybe it could have happened like that back in the traditional way. But because it's so modern, my brother was not interested anyway. He was already had his own path. But it's not automatic. You have to be appointed. But I know people who they have become chiefs because their dad was a chief or a sub-chief or something like that. Sub-chief is the one below the chief. But no, it's not like a kingdom or, what do you call it? Monarch, whatever you call it. It's not like something you inherit. But my grandfather was a chief, or he was an elder. And that's why he picked his son. My dad was the oldest. And naturally, he fit in. And from what I hear and from what I expect, he was a good chief. So, but none of us followed his footsteps, So, and it wasn't natural, it's supposed to go like that. So I wouldn't consider myself to be the son of a chief or a son of a king, like the way those stories like Lion King and all those African stories. So this is the son of a chief. So he's the one who runs the village, who runs the, the place now. I would like to consider myself that, but I feel like it's more, it would be very arrogant of me to consider that because I don't even live there. And then also, I'm younger. So, and then by tradition, you can't go and start, trying to implement things when you have older siblings, older brothers who are there. But fortunately, lately, the way things are now, whoever has the most knowledge is the one, who can say something. But there's also that element of, even now, when I'm older, when I go, we meet as a family, you can tell that everybody's thing is going to be considered before it gets to me. So it's like in order, So, that's why I have the foundation, so I can help the people in the community, because I feel they contributed to my upbringing. My mother was very much into the community, but I don't consider myself in an official capacity as somebody who is implementing rule. It's just, I just want to be engaged with the community, because I know my dad was very much in the community, and it brings me joy to be able to give back. Otherwise, what's the point of having been blessed to come to the US and then I can't take it back? And I remember they're the ones who supported me when I was coming, I remember, that's another memory. I can't call it childhood memory, but one of my memories that I'm very fond of, that the village was there. Literally, they had an around so I can get a ticket. So I feel like, hey, they really wanted me to come here and they blessed me. So it's my time to bless them. Yeah. I am the Embu tribe, which is the forgotten tribe. Because Embu is unique in that Meru is very big, is very prominent. Kikuyu is big, is prominent. Kamba is big, is prominent. And then right there in the middle, like when three circles meet, that produces Embu. We are literally in the middle, right? And Embu people, they assimilate very easily. If you can meet an Embu and all your life not know they are Embu because they speak Kikuyu, or they speak Meru, or they speak Kamba. But nobody really, it's very hard to pick up, to speak Embu. People even tease us, they say it's a slow way of speaking Kikuyu, it's a weird way of speaking Kimeru, but so I'm Embu, right? And going back to my tribe, I really don't have good history, or at least now I don't, but I'm very interested in it. But I know, for example, when the colonial man or the colonizer came, they wanted to be able to have people who will help them with implementing or carrying out their plan. So there was obviously those people who chose to fight them. And I'm not saying my grandfather was supportive of the idea of being oppressed and being marginalized and being put in is it called internment camps? What's the word? Internment camps. Like, I'm trying to remember the name they called it. And then you have to wear an ID every time you're walking around, so they can know which section you come from, because there's curfews and things like that. So, and they came with the guise of missionaries, and they have church. So my grandfather was actually an elder in the church, not necessarily the vicar, because the white guy has to appoint the vicar, right? You have to go to some missionary school or whatever you gotta go to, then come back. But my grandfather was the person who would be given, because now he's respected by the villagers or by the community. So he was basically the person in between the white guy and the locals. And he's the one who was supposed to understand the law. So he's the one who was helping, run the community and distribute land. That's why there's always claim. I've heard people make rumors like, oh, my grandfather stole all the land. That's why there's big pieces of land for his offsprings, because in Africa, when you're a father, your sons, whatever land you have is what you're going to divide up. Like the land that like I've built Bonsons on, that I got from my dad, which in turn was got from my grandfather, which in turn my grandfather, because back before the colonial, all the land was communal. It wasn't divided up. Everybody works on it, in a Harambee spirit. We all work on it together, and we eat whatever comes from it together. But then with all this colonization and modernization, they wanted it divided up so that this belongs to this guy, this belongs to this guy. So he was in charge of distributing it, right? And looking at the history, he wasn't unfair. But everybody kind of like, I don't want to say they got equal, but everybody was put according to where they wanted. And then if you wanted to be in a certain place, then it got divided up. So he was involved in a lot of that. And then my dad just came back to kind of like maintain. And that is what has remained. Now it's just the dynamics have changed because people have moved around a lot. And the people have bought land there. But if you really look at it, like all the neighbors for a big distance, we are related one way or another. So in essence, it was just like they put in one. So there's the tribe and then there's the clan. I know when you say clan in America, it sounds weird, but there's a clan like me. I'm from a clan called Egamoturi. And then we are next to some people called Egesiko, and so on and so forth. And you can see the Egamoturi people in one strip, and then the Egesiko people on the other strip, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Well, maybe with my older siblings, and I do hear from my older siblings, but it's just like in Africa, bad news, nobody wants to talk about it. Taboo is a real thing, right? Of course, we got the independence, and there's people, the resistance was as far as Embu people. There was people who were resistance, and you couldn't make it so obvious, so you don't lose, right? So it was more guerrilla warfare, where even if the colonizer thinks, or the white man thinks, the British guy thinks that you're supporting him, you're trying to find the weakness. So it's kind of like my grandfather was, I don't want to say he was betraying somebody, but it's like, although he has to obey because this guy can crush him, he is also feeding information to the guys so that, we can see how we can be independent again. And then eventually when we became independent, it wasn't independence on a clean slate. We know the independence had conditions. So my grandfather was instrumental in making sure that there's a smooth transition, so people don't have the bitterness, like they feel like now they need to go and pillage, so that even if, because the white man left, right? Yet he was there telling us, hey, if I'm not here, you guys are nothing. So when he left, we had to have somebody who is tell us, listen, we can stand on our own, And then you say, oh, there's no medication, there's no transportation, and there's no development, the school, who's going to support the church? So my grandfather was there to be like, hey, come on, everybody calm down. We're going to make sure it happens. And I remember my dad getting involved so much in government in that sense that he's trying to bring the resources or the amenities that people thought they lost. Because people have that, what's the name of it? When the slaves were released and they don't want to leave, Stockholm syndrome, people want to be like, no, I don't know why we have to chase the white man. Now you see how we don't have all these things. But my dad was like, no, you can do it on your own. The church is doing fine. My mother was totally engaged in church, because she wanted to make sure the church, succeeds. I was under the domination of Anglican church, So even if there's a lot of rules coming from the Church of England or whatever you want to call it, she wants to make it its own, make it resonate with the culture and have the people not lose their culture, and then magnify it again because it had to be suppressed when we were under colonization. And now somebody has to kind of like integrate it. So integrate it in a way that you're not completely going away and throwing away Christianity, because Christianity, they have already been indoctrinated into Christianity, And that's why you find a lot of people, it was a matter of life and death, because they made you feel like if you go back to your old ways, then you are letting down God, right? If you don't have an English name, that means you are maintaining your bush ways or your backward ways. If you grow your dreads, you are going back to being a bushman, As a matter of fact, the people that fought for independence, they all came out with dreads because they didn't cut their hair. But the thing is, when the colonizer came, he found us like this. But he told us, cut your hair to assimilate or to show us, hey, you are really being a civilized person. So now if you grew your hair, you can be kicked out of church. And that's one of the main reasons you see me with dreads, because I was like, go back to my roots, literally and figuratively, Yeah. So I wish my dad was alive to see me with dreads, because I'm the owner of dreads. Even my brothers have sat me down, talked to me about it. And I'm like, listen, I still earn my living. I am still a respectable, citizen where I live. So and then I explain to them what I'm telling them, and you can tell them like, okay, It's almost like, yeah, we know we know the reason for dreads, but you don't have. Why do you have to be the one who is a pioneer? I'm like, I'm not a pioneer. I'm really literally following the lineage. You know what I mean? But yeah, things like that. Because of the teaching of the colonizer, that was the way to identify the people who are rebels. Something as natural. It's not like we went and got. We never got tattoos. It's not like we got piercings. It's not like, it's not like all you're doing is letting your hair grow naturally and it locks, right? And actually that name, dreadlocks, that's the white man calling us the dreaded population. Those are the dread guys, dready or whatever. So dread actually came from Kenya. Before Jamaicans, they picked it up. The people who had the history, they picked it up. Dready. It started from the Mau Mau, So, and then when I was younger, it was almost impossible to see somebody with dreadlocks. The only person you see with dreadlock is the madman, quote unquote, in the village, right? Or the person who is a musician, who is independent, is not a corporate guy. You're not going to see a teacher with dreadlocks. You're not going to see a politician with dreadlocks, a doctor, anything. So it shows if you have dreadlocks, you are just somebody who is not serious with life. Those are the words they use. You're not serious, right? Why do you have dreadlocks? So it's looked down upon in the sense that they say, if you put dreadlocks, that is intentionally you saying you don't care about order, right? And that's why when I went back with it, and by the way, one of the main reasons I also put it on is because when I was in the military, I have over 20 years of military experience, starting in Kenya, NYS, having your hair cut every week because my hair grows fast. When I got out, I decided I'm not going to touch my hair with a blade or scissors or whatever, clippers. And that's what you're seeing, This is from 2018. I got out in 2016. So I maybe maintained it just for a little bit. And I was like, why the hell am I cutting it? And I decided I'm not going to do it. And here we are. So I put it on, first of all, because I understand the culture. And then secondly, in a way, maybe there's some truth to it because it's more like a rebellion, because like I dare somebody to say something about my hair. And then the job that I do, I want somebody to dare come and tell me my hair has anything to do with my ability to do the job that I'm doing. And then the things that I'm doing in Kenya, when people see me, you can see them looking at me. Is this the guy who is the main guy? Because they have more respect for the clean-shaven guys, So when they see me, they have that kind of thing. Fortunately, because of social media and the way the world is interconnected, they are seeing dreadlocks doesn't mean you're not a serious person, So maybe 10 or 30 years ago, or if my parents are alive, my mom passed away in 1988, my dad passed away in 2000. If my parents are alive, maybe I may not have dreads, not because I think they're bad, but it's so that I don't want to, be a letdown. I don't want my dad to keep answering questions. Why is your son so rogue? Have you ever heard of people call people with dreads mongiki? Yes, the thugs. Because people want to keep that narrative. Because that's indoctrination that is still there. But that generation is basically has died off, and they have realized, they don't really have anything to say about it. Hell no! First of all, maybe I was one of the people saying, look at this look at this madman. And madman is a serious thing back in the village, right? Mad. You're mad. That means you're gone cuckoo. And then now they associate it with doing drugs. Because, even now, weed is frowned upon. But we know it's legal everywhere. Here in California, it's legal. I don't smoke it. I have people that ask me for weed or something if they see me like somewhere in the public place. Because they associate dreads with, you are out there, you're doing whatever, you are free. You're like a hobo, right? So, yeah, so I cannot, that was not even something you can think of. You know what I mean? We have serious culture, mob mentality. You can't be independent. If you want to do something that's instinctive, you have to suppress it so you can go with the flow. Otherwise you're not going to get anything. And even up to this point, I do feel like, even now, I feel like maybe there's some places, maybe there's opportunities that I struggled to get or I did not get just by virtue of Maybe the way I dress and my dreads. But I don't care.